Hello again, students, and welcome back to Miss Bullock's Flipped Classroom. Today, our lesson will be on plot. Now, plot is important because without it, there would be no story. So let's go ahead and begin with plot. So your first question is, your I-cans for this lesson will be, I can learn about plot, I can identify the components of plot, as well as I can practice with plot. So, your first question is going to be, what is plot? Well, plot is the event or events in a story that actually make up that story. So, the question you want to ask yourself when you're looking for plot is, what happened in this story? One of the things that you may remember from middle school would be the plot mountain. The plot mountain works like this. There's the exposition of the story, the rising action, the climax, then the falling action, and the resolution. These are all of the components of plot. Well, you say, okay, what are those things? Well, exposition is the first part. It actually tells us who the characters are, when and where the story is set, as well as what the conflict, also called the problem, is. So, the question that you would have when you are looking for what is the exposition in a story's plot would be, who are the characters? When and where does this story take place? As well as, what's the problem? Now, in the mountain, you are here, down at the bottom. So you are walking toward the mountain. So, what's the next part? The next part of plot is the rising action. The rising action are all of the events that happen before we get to the climax. The climax is also known as the big event that changes everything in the story, okay? But the rising action are all the events that lead up to that. So the question you want to ask yourself when you're looking for the rising action would be, what little events have helped to build up to the big event? So you want to look for all those little events that build until you get to the big event. So on the mountain, you've already walked here, now you're climbing the mountain. Okay, which oftentimes is the longest, hardest part. The rising action is going to be one of the longest parts that you have in a story. The next part is the climax. The climax is that big event that really changes things in the story. It's going to change a lot of things, okay? So the questions you want to ask yourself in order to help you find the climax would be, what event changes the story completely? Also, at what part was I the most involved and interested in what was going to happen next? The climax is going to be the part where you as the reader are the most involved, you are the most interested. Now, on the mountain, you've already walked to it, you've already done that strenuous climb up it. This is your mountaintop. From here you can see everything. Okay? The next part of plot would be the falling action. The falling action are the events that happen after the climax. There are usually not very many of these. So you'll notice it's on the short end. It's kind of the downhill. So it's a lot easier. It seems to be a lot more quick than actually climbing up it. So the question that you want to ask yourself when you're looking to find and identify the falling action in a story would be, what happens after the big event that changes everything? What happens? There's, like I said, usually not that much. It's pretty short. And then the last part of the mountain would be the resolution. The resolution is when the conflict, that would be the problem, in the story either ends or it's solved. So that's wonderful. It's the resolution. And you'll notice it's right here. It's at the end of the mountain. You're finished. You have done all the work to get up there. You've seen the amazing stuff and you've come back down and now you're finished. Okay, so the question that you want to ask yourself in order to find the resolution is, how does the story end? Now, that's all well and good. But you say, okay, Miss Bullock, I've got this nebulous concept over here. That's awesome. How can I practice it and make it into a concrete thing that I can use every day in class? Okay, no problem. We're going to use Disney's The Lion King in order to do that. That's a movie that most of you have seen, and if you haven't, I suggest you do. It's a pretty good one. So let's talk about The Lion King. In The Lion King, there is a good bit of exposition. And again, this is going to tell us where this is set, who the characters are, and what the problem is. So here we go. Simba is born. Then Simba is the prince. We find that out. And we find out Mufasa shows Simba the kingdom. So we find out that Simba's set to inherit all of that. The rising action now starts. Simba goes to the elephant graveyard. Then Scar kills Mufasa. Simba is banished. Then Simba meets Timon and Pumbaa and grows up with them. So he grows up, and then Simba goes to take back his home, his rightful place as king. The climax is when Simba fights Scar. The falling action, Scar is banished, and Simba becomes king. The resolution is they all live happily ever after with Simba being king. So that's it. That's how we do plot. So hopefully you're ready to come on into class and work with it there. I'll see you soon, and don't forget to study for your vocabulary quiz.